Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Marriage Conversation with Naima B. Robert. And tonight, my guest is somebody whose ideas I found profoundly interesting. His style is a little bit provocative, but it's okay. It's all good. We can roll with it all, mashallah. Brother Nasir al-Amin, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Welcome to the show, mashallah. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So professionally, I'm a trained social worker counselor. I work in this space as a behavioral coach. I teach brothers and sisters how to understand and control their emotions. Work from a CBT modality that obviously I learned in graduate school and professional training, postgraduate school. And that's what I do. I help couples and brothers and mainly sisters. Ironically, my client base is about 95, 98% sisters from the UK, the States, Canada, and here in the College.
Mashallah. I first came across your work because you had commented on some videos that were out there where we were having some rather heated discussions. And then, I was able to see the kind of information that you were putting out there and the kind of conversations that you've been having or trying to have in the space of Muslims today and marriage. And I think my first question to you really is, what are we sisters not getting about what brothers really want? Do you think there's a disconnect there? What's happening?
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect, and there's a disconnect. So I would say that there's a disconnect because sisters lead with their emotions, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's just when you lead with unhelpful emotions, it becomes problematic. So, for example, leading with conditional self-acceptance, right? That I need something external from me for me to feel valid and accepted. And thus I go into the process of looking for a partner from that space, from that neediness, right? And that can dictate how you maneuver on a dating app, right? So, so for example, going on a dating app, a sister made a post the other day and she was asking for advice in terms of getting back out on the dating market after being divorced. And the advice I gave her was to make sure you go on the apps when you're not needing a validation hit, a validation fix. Because if you do, it's an emotional roller coaster. You might get that swipe that someone is interested in your profile. But if you don't, then that'll be more evidence and validation that there's something wrong with you, right? You're not enough, right? It's like Russian roulette with your emotions, right? And so that when you go on with that intention and that emotion at that moment, if you don't get what you're looking for, and the sad part about this is oftentimes you will, right? You'll find some guy that's needy, that's out there, that'll be liking on all of your stuff, and you'll get that hit, right? But the sad part about, getting a fix like this, a self-worth fix is it's only temporal. Like once you get it, right, you're back looking for it again in the next 5-10 minutes, right? It's just like comfort eating or comfort shopping, right? It's just comfort swiping, right? So you get the little fix you need, but it doesn't last long. When you don't get it, that's when you get that reinforcement of there's something wrong with me, right?
Yeah.
And then that can
lead. Tough. Yeah.
That leads though to when that happens too many times, then it's I'm getting off of the app, right? I'm getting off of the app. Wherein that also is problematic because it takes you from your goal, which is you exposing yourself to potentials,
right?
but you really got off the app not because of the quality of people, but because you were going on it at certain times for validation hits, right? That were temporal.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. When I say lead, when you're leading with emotions, unhealthy emotions, it can be problematic. And I think sisters aren't getting that, right? They're not getting that element of doing that emotional regulation, that emotional work. Right? Because if you're going to lead with emotions, you need to understand how to regulate your emotions and what emotions are grounded in and underpinned by healthy thinking, rational thinking. And I think
emotions.
that's the part where you might have been alluding to in terms of that disconnect, because what is the reality based on the ground in terms of what brothers are looking for versus what sisters may be thinking brothers are looking for. Those are thoughts, those are beliefs that aren't in synergy.
Yeah.
Right. And so if the sister is under an unhelpful belief about what men are looking for, it's going to guide her emotions and guide what she does, right? Thinking precedes emotions and precedes actions.
There's actually a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack there. I think I agree with you. I think one of the issues with a lot of the, and just for the sake of the viewers, guys, when we say dating apps, we mean matrimonial apps. They're like dating apps, but people are supposed to be on there looking to get married, and we have plenty of them in the Muslim community. But I think personally, one of the things that I found to be pernicious, really, about dating apps is how they function like social media, in the sense of the dopamine hit that you described, because it's exactly as you said. You're putting something out there and you're hoping for a response. You're hoping for a positive response. And until you get that positive response, you're swiping, right? You're swiping and you're hoping. When you get the match, it's the dopamine hit. And that's great. But when you don't get the match, or when you're swiping left on everyone, there is a mood shift. There really is a mood shift. And especially if you have, your notifications on, for example, sometimes even if you have notifications off, am I right, guys? Even if the notifications are off, in the back of your mind, there's always the idea that I wonder if anyone's seen my profile. I wonder if anyone swiped right? So it's tough. It's tough to stay emotionally stable in that environment, I think, because it operates like an Instagram or like Facebook, where it's almost the same motion, and I think that's kind of built in, that kind of addictive quality, to be honest, I think is built in to the whole thing, right?
They play on you not understanding your emotions and how to regulate yourself. I mean, reality is, it may be different in the UK, but in the States we don't teach emotional regulation.
No, we don't either.
Right? So they're playing on the reality that you don't know how to de-escalate yourself, right? You don't know how to not engage in instant gratification. And that's not just sisters, that's brothers as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're playing on. They're playing on, you don't know how to pause, regulate your emotions, understand them, de-escalate them, and then tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna go for a quick jog. I'm going to do 100 push-ups. I'm going to, do something and then come back to this app, because I actually don't need to know right now if, Khaled has hit me up.
It's that scarcity as well, isn't it? It's that, I need to know now, I need to know if, I need to know when. So there's that side of things. There's the way that apps work. And the other thing as well that I wanted to unpack was even the issue of emotional regulation, or just leading with emotion. You gave the example of somebody who's come out of divorce and is looking to marry again. The question popped into my mind, how much of that whole previous marriage and divorce is still with us as baggage when we go into looking for a new partner? In your experience, do you think we're doing enough work to kind of deal with the baggage of the previous relationship and heal and kind of, come to terms with things, etc., before looking? Or do you think No, just like get back out there. Because just because you mentioned about emotions and emotional regulation, what are your thoughts on that?
So that's interesting. I'm gonna ask you to bring me back to an example, and the example is a sister that recently reached out to me, who I want to say is within 3 months of her divorce, and asking
Hmm.
me if she's ready uh,
Hmm.
to get back out there. Is it too
Hmm.
soon?
Hmm.
So, but before I go there, I wanted to speak to the point that you mentioned about baggage. The way that I describe it to clients is this: you have, think of it like when you go on a trip, you have your check in baggage and
Hmm.
you have your carry on baggage.
Hmm.
The baggage you want to have is the carry on baggage.
Hmm.
Baggage you don't want to have is check in baggage, because that weighs down the plane. It's embarrassing when you have too much and you have to sit there and unpack it in front of everybody and pay more, right? It's costly, right?
That's a good one. For those of us from Africa or from, Asia, from the diaspora, we know how embarrassing it is to have all of that luggage to have to take back home with you. Yes, I get what you
Yeah.
mean.
And as a brother from the States that's been to the continent, to the Horn of Africa about 9 times, in love with the Horn of Africa, I know the experience, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but what I would say is, so yeah, the check-in baggage is the one you want, right?
Hmm.
You can lift it yourself. If you got a suave gentleman who's with you, he'll lift it
Hmm.
for you.
Hmm.
It's not a strain on him as well. It's not a strain on
Oh,
you. If it's under your chair, if it's overhead, it's something you can manage, right?
mashallah. Hmm.
But the check-in is the one that's problematic. It's
Right.
costly to the person that's with you.
Hmm.
It's costly to you.
Mm.
It's hard to, like I said, it weighs down the plane. It's problematic. And so what you want to do when you go into a marriage, or once you come out of your marriage, is you really want to look at that check-in luggage,
Hmm.
right? You may have some, you may have some, but you don't want that check-in luggage that's falling over, that you gotta, like I said, once you get in the line, you gotta take something out. It's a nuisance,
Yeah.
right? What you want and what you want to look for in someone else is someone that has carry-on luggage, meaning they can manage it.
Is that because we all have baggage, essentially? Like, everyone's going to have some check-in luggage. Is that what
So,
you mean?
yeah, and so this is the thing that I wanted to mention. So when it comes to baggage, I like
Mm.
to look at baggage as the meanings that we make about what happens to us, right? So we always carry with us the meanings that,
Hmm.
right, the interpretations, the evaluations that we've made about things in life, right? And that's going to be different. You and I can experience the same thing, but
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
have a different evaluation. We may perceive it the same, but our
Hmm.
evaluation of it is different. And that's the thing. That's the baggage that we carry with us, and that we always have to reassess, right?
Hmm.
Because that's what gets problematic when you get in a new relationship. You realize that some of the meanings that you have about yourself aren't that helpful, right?
Hmm.
And that's that
Hmm.
meaning. Those are those meanings, that baggage that you also take onto the apps, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, baggage is important, and people need to do that work. People need
Yeah.
to be doing that work. I tell any client that I have, like I said, majority of my clients are sisters, but the brothers I work with as well. If the person that you're interested in does not have a counselor or a coach, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Wow. Wow.
It's really not worth it.
Hmm.
Especially sisters, if you are divorcee and have children, and divorcee and no children, and you're 35, you don't have time to waste.
Hmm.
You really don't have time to waste. If you want to get to know someone, you give it 6 months, and then you want to get married, and at least give it 6 months before you have a child with this person, to make sure that
Hmm.
the mask that comes off, you still like the real face underneath.
Hmm.
That's a year. You at 36.
Hmm.
And look, I don't mind the smoke that's going to come after this. I'm quite comfortable. I'm good. So let me just be very clear. The
Hmm.
drama and the issues within the Muslim community around age, I take it as it is. So we have ageism, quote unquote, ageism, if that's how we want to look at it, in our community. That's just there. So if you're 30 plus, the reality is just look at the reality of ageism within our community and how do you get what you want given these parameters? Because it's not going to change for this generation. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of re-education, if it can happen at all. Because I think I think it's very problematic. So this is how
I'm going to push back on that. So yeah, I'm going to come back to that point, inshallah.
Please. So I think if it can change at all, I think for sisters, the best thing to do, if you're 30 plus, focus on the reality as it is. Men have age criteria. That's just it. We do.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now this is because it's two things. One is you called it ageism, which of course is, you know, you put it in quotes, and I get that because it is something that people throw around. Is it ageist to want to marry somebody who's on the younger end if you want to start a family? Is that ageism?
Excuse me, pardon. If you ask me, no. I was just putting it out there because
sorry guys, no, we're not buying that. we're not doing that. We're not playing that game. Because for me, if somebody accuses a man or a woman who has age-based criteria because of the needs that they have, or the plan they have for their life, or what their program is, and you kind of say, oh, you're being ageist, whoever, brothers or sisters, it smacks of shaming, to be honest. It smacks of shaming people for their preferences. I don't know. I'm not down.
It is, and it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. That was my subtle, nice way of engaging sisters, of basically saying a nice way. It's a waste of time, sis.
Right. So okay. Well, this is the marriage conversation, so we're keeping it real. Okay. And really, this is the space, guys. In case it's your first time watching, brothers, Nasir, it's your first time being on here. My goal for this series is really for us to have honest, thoughtful conversations. So this space is a safe space for people to be honest, because you don't have to be disrespectful or mean to be honest. Now, when you come to a space like this as a listener or a viewer, understand that we are here to be honest. So some of the things that you hear, they may not feel too good. Some of the things that you hear may give you more food for thought than you were expecting, but know that it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of sincerity. It's coming from a place of wanting better for our community. Because at the end of the day, we could weave fairy tales all day long. But if anyone knows anything about me, especially of late, like, this life is not a fairy tale. The stuff that's happening out there, it's not a fairy tale. These are not fairy tales here. So it's my bad, because I was asking in a nice roundabout way for you to be honest and give the sisters the reality, like, what are we not getting about what brothers want? What are you seeing? So one of the things we can see is sisters having an issue with brothers wanting to marry someone younger than they are, right? And feeling that is discrimination or ageism, etc. And just as you said, it is what it is. Tell me other things that just, it is what it is. Sisters, this is what it is. I'll give you the floor now.
So if I can, just for the sister that may be taking, or the brother that may be taking notes with this, again, that unhelpful belief is the part that I'm talking about. Those unhelpful emotions that sisters lead with, and sometimes brothers lead with, right? And underneath that unhelpful belief or emotion is this quote unquote ageism, or this demand that men shouldn't like what they like. One of that is an age preference. And the other reason why it's problematic is, another reason why it's problematic and a waste of time is, there's brothers that actually prefer older women, right? And that, so keeping it 100, keeping it 100. I don't want a younger sister. Absolutely. So for transparency, I'm a married man. My wife and I have had these conversations about polygamy. So this is, you know, if I choose to do it, I choose to do it. The reality is, I don't want no young woman.
Mm.
The onboarding process for a young woman onto something that, alhamdulillah, my wife and I have created something magical. It's beautiful. We have a great team.
MashaAllah.
I'm not bringing on a young woman for that. I got to teach you. No, you want a seasoned vet, right? So why do I say all of that? I say all that to say that, sisters, it's not as you may think it is that every man wants a young woman. Some men want older women, right? They want experience, right? So I think that's the part about the unhelpful belief, because it's not grounded in evidence and not grounded in reality. Because the reality is there are men that want younger women, but there are also men that prefer older women, seasoned women, right? So that's the thing. That's that emotional regulation piece, right? Of understanding, looking at my thought, where's the evidence for what I'm thinking, right? Is it really true that men only want sisters that are younger? No, really, it's not.
Okay. Had this conversation before, been involved in this conversation before. And from what I understand, and again, like you said, there's everybody out there, there's all sorts out there, and if this brother, if he's not for you or you're not for him, then inshallah there's somebody else. But this issue of a woman who's been married, who has children, who is now looking for whatever reason, she's looking to pair up again, she's looking to get married again. Those men who want that woman, how many of them are already married? And what do you say to sisters who are in that position? Either they've never been married, they're in their 30s or 40s, or they've been married and they have children, they have responsibilities already, but they will not settle for polygamy. They will not settle as to be someone's second wife or a third wife or a fourth wife. That's just like, I can't do that. What's the solution?
So I approach everything from a kind of a therapeutic perspective, right? And so you always have either a emotional issue or a practical issue, right? It's the emotional part you have to deal with, and then the practical part you have to deal with. And so, excuse me, for sisters in that situation, the first question you want to ask yourself is, what are you willing to pay? Right? What is the cost you're willing to pay to extend your process of getting married? That's critical. What are you willing to pay mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially? That cost you have to know. Because if not, you can rule out polygyny, that's fine. But you also have ruled out a pool of men and an already limited pool of men that you have, right? And so this is also, I'm speaking to be very specific, I'm speaking to sisters who have a high libido, and or sisters that enjoy intimacy, period. Had it in a halal manner, enjoy it, and want to continue it. The question I have for those sisters is, how are you going to address that? How are you going to address that in a halal manner? What are you willing to pay cost-wise to not have someone in your life to address that? So some would say it's not that important, then this part isn't for you. I know a significant number of sisters where it's that important that it's ended up them being a mistress to a married man, when in the beginning they told themselves they would never be in polygyny. And then once they found out that the man that they're dating is married and or he's really not going to leave, they stay. As a mistress, though. Wow. Won't engage in polygyny. Won't engage in polygamy.
This is so interesting because it speaks to, may Allah protect us, firstly,
I mean,
subhanallah, protect us and all those around us from those types of situationships, let's put it that way. But it speaks to something that I've heard said before, where, you know, a wife would rather her husband have a mistress or have an affair than marry another woman and there be another wife. I don't know how true that is. It's just one of those things that people say. But, you know, obviously you work with a lot of sisters, you know, variety of backgrounds, you know, variety of kind of focuses in life. But what are your observations of the marriage market amongst your constituency? Okay, so the people you're working with in this kind of modern Muslim age, what are your observations of what's going on out there?
Brothers or sisters?
Well, you can address the brothers first and then the sisters.
So what I'm seeing amongst brothers is it's a biased market. It's a biased market. I mean, it literally is. We got options. The brothers that I'm in contact with are brothers that are brothers of resources, are on their purpose. They're grinding, right? They believe in the law, but they believe in also getting the paper. And
are they the high value men that we hear so much about?
So what I would say is they are practicing Muslim men that are driven, focused, on purpose, and got paper. Right? Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And risk is about Allah. You got to get out there and get it. And they're getting out there and getting it, right? And so what they're not willing to settle for, those that are not married, are sisters above 30. And they're in their mid-30s. They are, they're cut off. And I bring sisters to them. They're 24 to 28. It has to be exceptional for late 30s. I mean, for late 20s.
For late 20s.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is something I've seen on your page and elsewhere. I've seen, you know, my sisters surprised by this. I've seen sisters upset by this and very, very much taking these types of requirements personally. And I know you've seen it too. And the thing that interests me is that it's happening everywhere. This is not a Muslim issue. This is globally women who are in their late 30s, in their 40s, who are looking to pair up, finding that all the men of their age group are not looking at them. They're looking younger, right? And of course, just like all the women out there, you can find them on TikTok, by the way, in case you don't believe me, but all the women out there who are saying, where have all the good men gone? Where are all the men, right? And why are none of these men taking me seriously?
Can I please, before I forget, side note advice for sisters, please, if you go through a divorce, social media is not your friend. Social media.
Say that again for the people in the back. Say that again for the people in the back, please.
Friend, trust me. If you are going through your phase of all men are dogs, and it's effort girl season, please do not show it on social media. Because when you age out of that little phase of all men are dogs, and you're ready to get back on the market, the men of value, the men of resources, the men of means have long memories. I tried to explain this to a sister the other day. I saw over the course of the past year, I think she's gotten through a divorce, has a child, and now all of the stories on her thing that pops up is her in the club with the other girls. And I sent her a message that, sis, it was very straightforward. Like, sis, I'm not trying to slide in your DMs. I'm just trying to give you some advice. I'm married. I'm not, it ain't about that. If you're looking for quality men, let's talk. But the route you're going, what you're showing, you're not going to find it there. Meaning, because it was an image of her up in the lounge and all sad. And so I did this one time, and this was the first and the last time. I haven't done it again. I haven't tried sliding in to help. The first thing, you know, the first thing she said to me. She said, "Send me some pictures."
And
she wanted me to send her pictures of the eligible men. Like, Mom, you ain't got it like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mid-30s and divorced. I'm not saying for you to act out of desperation, but don't act like all of the cards are in your hands. You need to be having a different conversation with me. Like, are they practicing? What are their careers like? Right? You know, where do they work? Right?
I don't even know whether she should be having that conversation with you, to be honest, because at the end of the day, sorry guys, you know, it reminds me of the ayah in the Quran that says, you know, the pure men are for the pure women. And I'm not saying that the sister's not pure, but if you're not on your deen like that, if you're not on it, how are you going to go out there asking for a guy who is, right? It's like you want the traditional man, but you're not a traditional woman. You want the traditional benefits, but you don't want the traditional responsibilities. And we've spoken about this on this channel before, right? So for me, it's, you know, what I see, and I see it on your page and I see it all over, is a lot of our sisters have the same delusions that women out there in the world have about their value. And we're going to use the word, guys, sorry, I know you're going to cringe, but on the marketplace. I know you don't like it, but the reality is that when you're on there swiping, you know that you're shopping. That's what it is. You're looking and you're either liking or you're not liking. Khalas. Okay, so let's just keep it a buck. Okay, so so sisters overinflating their value based on criteria that mean nothing to men, that mean nothing to brothers. So again, it's not our fault. This is part of the conditioning. This is part of how we've been, conditioned, how we've been cultured to see ourselves through our achievements, for example, to see ourselves through the lens of our education, you know, whether it's, you know, our master's degree or our money or our career or any of those types of things. We elevate ourselves because of those things, right? Or things that we as women value. So life experience, for example, wisdom. We value those things as women. And not to say that men don't, because there are plenty of men who, like you said, would prefer an older sister because of her wisdom, because of her maturity, because of her soberness, etc. But for the sisters out there, you know, who are in this stage of life. And the thing is, the reason we talk about this on this channel is because we know that it's a reality. We know how many sisters there are out there, 1 or 2 marriages in, okay, with children who still want to be married, right? They don't want to be on their own. We know this is a reality. That's why we talk about it. But, you know, doing what other women out there are doing, which is presenting ourselves with our very best masculine qualities, and a whole laundry list of demands, right? A whole laundry list of demands, and the mentality that I shouldn't have to settle. I deserve X, Y, Z, and I shouldn't have to settle. And for me, and sisters, I'm talking directly to you because you know me already. Auntie Naima, I'm gonna tell you, you know, what I see happening is that we are deluding ourselves and we are entertaining unhelpful thoughts about who we are in the world, who we can be to a man, who we should be to a man, and what a man should be to us. And if that stuff is not regulated, if that stuff is not sorted out, then what's going to happen is you'll never see anyone as worthy of you, because you see yourself as such. And the thing is, it's you know, subhanallah, brother, it's funny because as sisters, we validate each other. We love on each other, we support each other, and I love it. You know, sisters, we know you, we love it, right? We love the fact that our sisters are always going to have our back, and they're going to always make us feel good, and they're always going to, you know,
keeping it a buck.
Yes, we are.
Because you didn't mention we lie to each other.
Okay, but I was getting there. I was getting there. I was getting there. Trust me. So in our spaces as sisters, we validate each other. We love on each other. We support each other. We lift each other up, right? Now, a part of that is, as you said, it is kind of lying to each other. It's also soft. Okay, so, all right, lying. We call it what it is. Lying. Okay. we do lie to each other, and we soften, and we pander to each other, and we don't want our sisters to ever feel bad, and we don't want to say anything that's going to make, I don't want to say anything that's going to make my friend feel bad, feel like she made a mistake, like she's guilty of something. That's not sister code amongst Muslims. That's not what we do. And not to say that there are not sisters who, and if I can explain it this way, their motivation is fi sabilillah. Those are the only sisters that I've seen who will be honest with you, like honest with you, regardless of how you feel. They will say to you, sis, you're wrong. This, what you're doing right now, it's haram. Or the way that you're going right now, you're going to end up in a bad place. And they do that only for the sake of Allah. You know, it's only those sisters who they truly love you for the sake of Allah, and they're not, you know, they're not afraid to tell you the truth if that is what you need to hear. Most of us, we love each other because we love each other, right? So if our echo chamber is other sisters, and maybe all our friends are in a similar situation to us, the conversations that we have are conversations of validation, of support, of bigging you up, of elevating you, of lifting you up. But unfortunately, they are not conversations that are realistic or practical or truthful, because the truth hurts. And in this particular scenario, the truth hurts and it burns, because the fact of the matter is, as I said before, it's not a fairy tale. And none of these situations are, most of us are not in a place where we're holding all the cards. By this stage in life, we're not holding the cards. We don't have the perfect scenario. We don't have tick, tick, tick off any man's list, let alone a man ticking off our list. You know what I mean? So this is this is what I'm seeing from my side of things. There are other arguments to be made about, well, you know, the brothers are, I won't say what the other conversation is, because the other conversation is, as you said, we talked about social media, and we talked about, you know, women going through a divorce, having their little epiphany phase or the 304 phase, and it's online, right? It's all being broadcasted. And the thing is, what we're seeing with sisters is that we're doing the same thing. You know, and I want to speak to my sisters directly on this one, because if, for example, sis, you were on an app and you were speaking to someone, and for whatever reason it didn't work out, like Brother Nasir said, don't go online. Don't go and record a story. Don't go and record a reel. Don't record a TikTok sharing, this is what happened to me, this is how I feel. Because that stuff, which is what we're seeing all the time, right, it's creating a narrative in the culture. And you sound crazy. And so when a person of, like you said, of value, of standards, when he sees that, he's just like, this is chaos. Yeah. This is craziness. Like,
this is going to complicate my life, and I don't need it. And that's the difference between a younger man and a more seasoned man, is he's looking for what will complement his life versus complicate it. And so when he gets a whiff that you will complicate his life, he will exit. And that's what makes it, that's the part about sisters with children that I think sisters don't get. It's not so much that you've been married before, that you've been intimate before, that you have children per se. It's how can I navigate and how can she navigate her children, my needs, and
Yeah.
our needs as a couple.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's a difficult thing, especially depending if you got young children. Like the sister I mentioned to you, sister reached out. She has four children, all under the age of 6.
SubhanAllah.
And it's like, sis, you want to get remarried. How are you going to have time for another man and give him his rights, his due? You got 4 children. Like, Mom, you nursing. Like, and that's a beautiful thing. But you nursing, like, and then,
wow.
like, if they're under 6, the probability of 1 or 2 of them still being in diapers, Mom, where you gonna get the time? Right? And so when your message to me is this too early for me? And then when you start giving me your criteria, and then you put up there, polygyny is not for me. My polygyny is all for you. It's for your situation.
I know somebody who would say that polygyny is what you qualify for. That's what you qualify for. Now, don't let anyone get that. Please don't come for us in the comments, guys. Okay. Like I said, we're here to have realistic conversations.
So let me speak to the people that want to come at me in the comments. This is let me clarify, because I have no problem with clarifying. What I mean is this. Let's look at it from the man's standpoint that she wants. Also, just a side note, her criteria is 35 to 38. So when we talk about quote unquote age preferences, let's not forget that this happened too. But sis, she's 35, divorced with 4 kids. And as high as you're willing to go is 3 years. It's like, those are the delusions of grandeur. Like, you just, like, again, for anyone keeping notes, it's like unhelpful beliefs. The thing I want people to take away is unhelpful beliefs. Unhelpful thinking will produce unhelpful emotions and unhelpful actions, and it will circle back and reinforce the unhelpful thinking. And the unhelpful thinking that you qualify for something other than what you are typically getting requests for, right, is unhelpful thinking. It's an unhelpful belief, right? And that's what you got to learn how to address. Yeah. And that's where, this is not a shameless self-plug, but if it is, it is. This is where I come in at. And this is where I think the reason why I have a high percentage of sisters as clients is because those are the uncomfortable conversations that the girlfriends don't want to have with her. Right. Right? That's that uncomfortable conversation that she doesn't want to have with her girlfriend, and her girlfriend doesn't have with her, and she's starting to realize I'm making the same mistakes over and over, and the advice that I'm getting isn't the most helpful. While they're married, when they're divorced, right, they need to be doing this type of work on themselves, of unpacking the unhelpful beliefs. And that goes for men as well. Yeah. Right? Because when men don't do it, we get very needy, and that's so unattractive. No woman likes a needy man. Which brings us on to the topic of simps. Everybody knows simping ain't easy. Simping ain't easy. And we did a little exercise on Instagram before we did before we had this conversation. And Brother Nasir put out a question asking the brothers to tell him, something uncomfortable, an uncomfortable truth that they would like him to convey to my audience. And we got a few of those, but more than that, we got some brothers who sound like they are the ones who are in need of some uncomfortable truth telling. Tell us about what happened. What's coming up for these brothers, mashallah? Yeah, so look, shout out to one brother. I don't remember his name, but he brought up a very good point wherein that he said that we focus more on the emotional well-being of sisters and not that of brothers. And I think that's true. Right. And that's, hopefully something I plan to address in this space of men's improvement, is providing men with the skill sets and insight, right, to understand and regulate their emotions. But they got to want it. That's the other part with that, right? One thing I give sisters, and I've said this before, I found in my practice, women, when they sense smoke, they'll get help.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, brother, the couch that they're on and the remote that they have in their hand has to be on fire for them to reach out and get help. But sisters, they sense smoke somewhere down the block or 2 miles away. They getting help, right? And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So that's one point. You know, I like the fact that the brother brought that up, because that is something that we need to address more, right? That doesn't mean.
What did he mean by that? What did he mean by that? And the reason I'm asking this is because this is the interesting thing of being in a sister space for a very, very long time, in a women's only space for a very long time, and then slowly starting to hear men talking, and, you know, men talking to other men about what it is to be a man and being a man in today's world, etc. Now, what's interesting to me is that you literally have two realities at the same time. So I'm sure there are sisters who are hearing you say there's more focus on the sister's emotional health and emotional well-being than there is on the brothers. And there will be sisters who are saying, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding? Everything is set up for the brothers. Everything is set up for the man. The husband has all the rights. The husband has it his way, any way he likes it. You know, right now we're suffering because sisters are not being heard and sisters are not being taken care of, etc. Because that's her perspective on what's happening in the space. So I need you to explain why you agree with the brother, and what does that mean that more attention is paid to the sister's emotions than the brothers? Break that down.
When was the last time you heard someone in conversation say, women need to stop acting like girls?
Good point.
Yeah. When is the last time you heard men need to stop acting like boys? It's degrading.
We be saying that. Yeah.
It's labeling behavior, right? And the reality is, both men and women are men and women. They just make unhelpful decisions and choices based off of unhelpful thinking and emotions, right? But we are comfortable with shaming men, right? We're comfortable with this kind of Homer Simpson depiction of fathers and men, right? And men have feelings, right? And they're not going to emote like women, and they may not bring it up. But if you look at some of the posts on my page, those are some of the issues that I bring up, and sisters just find it difficult to stay on topic. We're talking about what is bothering men. And it always comes back to, okay, but sisters, we go through this, and women, we go through this. Like, okay, sis, but that's not the point of this post, right? And so that's kind of this element that needs to be addressed, right? Like we've gotten too loose with shaming men. And that's just not sisters. Unfortunately, we have community leaders and imams that talk slick with it as well, you know, appeasing sisters in the community. And they do the same type of talk. But in reality is just men making unhelpful decisions, unhelpful choices, right? Emasculated choices. Like I get that, right? So that's what needs to be addressed. But if you teach men how to regulate their emotions, how to be better, right, in their choices, you'll get better results. The same thing with sisters, right? But we're willing to engage and give that energy and time to that when it comes to sisters, but not with brothers. It's okay for brothers to be the emotional punching bag. We need to talk loose when it comes to men. Think about when it's a touchy issue. Again, like we talked about in terms of age preferences for men. Men are called predators because they want a sister that's 10 years younger. They're 35 and 25 or between that range. They're called a predator. What is this? Where is this in our tradition? But it's okay to label them, right? And what about an older sister who's 45, 50, looking at a brother who's 40? Is she a predator? Right? But so again, it's this issue of we're willing to shame and look down on brothers when they fall short. And we're all fallible human beings. We will fall short. That's just reality, right? And understanding that and accepting that is critical to our own emotional well-being. So that's one of the things that men need to understand, is that we're fallible human beings. We will fall short, period. But we still can unconditionally accept ourselves regardless of those errors and ways in which we fall short, despite being labeled a boy in the moment, right? Or whatever the newest trend is that comes. But I think another part in all of this is, and not to dismiss it, is men aren't really accepted it any longer. And I think that's another thing that sisters are starting to see. We got options. We really got options. We got sisters that are older, we got sisters that are younger, we got Muslims. Oh, and I'm ready for the smoke. And we got non-Muslims. We got options, right? So it would behoove sisters to let go of this shaming language and come to the table with brothers in a more equitable, kind, feminine type manner, and not this shaming stuff, because we got options. I hope that wasn't too straight.
The word that's resonating in my head right now is humility, and I could be wrong. No, I'm not wrong. The way that women are encouraged to behave in society today is the whole boss babe thing. The queen, the diva, the boss babe, right? Now, people may say this is a non-Muslim thing, this is stuff that they're doing out there, it's got nothing to do with Muslim women, but I disagree. I see sisters, and maybe even I've done it before, imbibing, well, you're breathing the air of the culture at the end of the day. There's no way that you will be immune unless you're like one of those sisters I was speaking about who are focused on their deen, and that is their main source of inspiration, of knowledge, of perspective, of focus. It's deen. They, inshallah, alhamdulillah, like they are safe and they are free from this. The rest of us out here, say again?
The silent majority.
I don't know whether it's a majority anymore. I think with the generations, I think it decreased, because most of us are not on knowledge. Most of us are not practicing like that. Most of us are not focusing on Quran and learning the deen. I don't know. We need to do some data analysis, but I think the silent majority maybe is the more traditional sisters. But anyway, coming back to the attitude that we're encouraged to have through our education, through the culture, through, you know, the kind of behavior that is encouraged around us, it is the opposite of humility. It's the opposite of humble. It's proud, it's arrogant, it's boastful, it's prideful, it's conceited, it's me, all that. And I see it in the conversations that people are having online. I see it in the posts that they make, the stance that they take on certain things. And even though we sometimes use Islamic examples and Islamic language, the attitude is one of female superiority, or at best, at worst, it's female superiority. At best, it's independence from men. We don't need your validation. We don't worship men, we worship Allah. Now, facts, okay? We don't worship men, we worship Allah. But the vibe, sis, the vibe that you're coming with, I'm sorry, if you can't see it, I'll tell you, I can see it. That has come from the feminist anti-male education that you've had. And when I say anti-male, it is the idea that as women, we don't need male approval. We don't need male validation. We don't need men, period. Okay, we've got this, right? With Muslims, it's tempered slightly because obviously you can't just be out there like that and, you know, not ever have a husband. Yeah, of course, you have to have a husband at some point. But in your head, you're thinking, I can have a husband and still fight the patriarchy. I can have a husband and still speak out against misogyny and toxic masculinity and all of these ideas that you're breathing in from the culture. But you're trying to Islamize it and you're trying to come out as a strong Muslim woman. But I'm sorry, the vibe, sis, the vibe is one of Muslim men are trash. Muslim men are garbage. Muslim men are underdeveloped. Muslim men are emotionally stunted. Muslim men do not know how to treat their wives. Muslim men make terrible husbands, aslan, right? Muslim men ain't That's the vibe. So when I see posts like that, there was a time when I would have read that and been like, mashallah, you know, like our deen empowers us. Our deen gives us this status, right? Where we are not underneath a man and we have no deen without a man, right? Alhamdulillah for that. And that's true. But the extreme that we've gone to now and where it's going is that male hating, man bashing. We don't need men, actually. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we have to marry them. It's unfortunate that we have to have one to have kids. It's unfortunate that we kind of have to have a wali situation, right? It'd be so much better if we didn't, right? But anyone who's hearing this, just if you're not on social media, then you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But if you are on social media, then you probably have seen this permeating our spaces. And so, brother, what I'm saying is the humility to be able to come to the table with a man who you deem worthy, okay, hopefully with, you know, realistic standards of your own, right? And the humility to be able to ask yourself, what do I really have to offer this man? What do I have to offer this man? Why should this man choose me? And if I am not ready to answer that right now, what is the work that I'm prepared to do to make sure that I can answer it at some point? In order for me to be able to answer that, I have to humbly ask, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? How can I be of service to you? But I'm sure many sisters are thinking, Sister Naima's lost the plot right now, because we don't think like that. We think, I need this, I need that, I need a man who will do this, I need a man to bring me that, I need a man who's gonna this, all of these things I need. This is for me, this is what I need, this is my situation. He has to fit in with my program.
Yeah. And no man worth his salt, no man of means, of resources, of emotional maturity is going to get on the program of a woman. Period. If he does, I'm interested in how long that's going to last and who's going to be running that relationship.
I think that it's not, I hear you about the resources and the means, but I don't think it's about that necessarily, because I think that any man who understands how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him and what he created him to do, which was to lead and protect and provide, but to lead spiritually, mentally, emotionally, to take care of his family, right? Who is aware of that. I think it's the masculinity that makes him know it's the frame. I think that's what I want to say. It's the frame.
That's the foundation. Like, why else are you going after the means and the resources?
Yeah.
Right? To be a protector and provider.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what I tell brothers in terms of those that aren't married, those that I do work with, or just friends that are in my circle that aren't married, now it's all about provider development, period. Only engage your time and attention in things that enhance your ability to be a protector and a provider. you should spend no time pursuing a sister. Period.
Hmm.
If you are really about it and really focused on your faith, your finances, fitness,
Mm-hmm.
finesse,
Mm-hmm.
you're really doing that, women are going to gravitate to it.
Yeah,
It's not
100%.
rocket science.
100%.
Like you're going to come in contact with women, right? That's just gonna happen. And
Yeah.
women gravitate to men that have great programs that are going somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
100%.
And so this thing isn't that hard. Right. So again, the foundation is apologies. The given is we're talking about men that are like want to be providers and protectors, right? That they understand that that's their role, and they're going into relationships. Before I got married, when I was, excuse me, when I was, speaking with my wife, I asked her multiple times, I plan to lead. Are you looking to run this in any kind of way? And I asked that question with the understanding that I was completely ready to walk away from it if her answer was yes. I had no intention of marrying a woman that wanted to run a relationship. Period. I want someone who's open and wants to be a co-pilot. Period.
You mean you were looking for a submissive woman, Brother Nasir?
With a capital S.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
This is a trigger word, by the way, nowadays. This is a triggering word, okay? So we may need to give some context here.
That's exactly what I was looking for, because I knew what I was bringing to the table. I knew that, and that if you ask my wife, she'll ask. One of the things that she'll say is the reason why she married me is I had a plan and I demonstrated how I was working my plan. She knew what I had been working on, where I planned to take us in terms of this marriage for the next 5 to 10 years. She could clearly see it and see the things that I had been doing prior to meeting her that leads to that happening. That like blew her mind. Right?
Yeah.
And so I knew what I was looking for. I knew the type of player, the type of person I needed on the team. I wasn't willing to settle for anything other than that. And, alhamdulillah, my wife has a degree and is educated, but that wasn't my interest at all. Yeah, less about that. I'm more concerned about, agreeableness, how she's going to be as a mother, right? How is she going to support me as I take this family in a certain direction? Right? That's what I'm looking for, and that's what I think the men that I hear from, that's what they're looking for. Compliment, not complicate. No man, it's like the post one of my UK brothers told me, he says, no man in history has ever been turned on and attracted to and aroused by academic qualifications. Just isn't what we're looking for. Right.
And this hurts sisters. This hurts women. It hurts.
Because of the unhelpful belief. Society has reinforced the unhelpful belief that they pursue academic accomplishments subtly to qualify for a man or to be held in higher esteem. That doesn't do it for us.
I think the societal messaging, if I may be so bold as to tweak that, the societal messaging is that pursuing academic goals and professional goals is superior to qualifying for a man. And I have to say qualify, because even the idea of qualifying for a man is anathema. What do you mean qualify? What's a man? What's great about a man? I have to qualify for him. What do you mean? Can't you see me? It's that kind of energy, right? I'm the queen.
Yeah. Hence men saying, and you'll hear it often, men will take a 6 or a 7 with a great personality and that's agreeable any day over a 9 or a 10 with that type of attitude. Hence the barista or the waitress in the halal shop has just enough of a chance as the PhD from Harvard. That's real talk.
Yeah.
Right? We're just looking for something different. Now, pursue the PhD if you want it, but just don't pursue it with the demand. Again, we come back to limiting belief and the criteria that makes something a limiting belief, one of which is a demand. Don't pursue the PhD with the subtle demand that I must value it as you value it in terms of criteria for marriage. That's a demand. That makes it a limiting belief.
Another thing as well that comes to mind is if you are going to pursue whatever you're going to pursue, guys, at the end it's your life, you can do whatever you want. But if you are going to pursue higher education, a career, secure the bag, etc., I think another thing that's unhelpful is making it a criteria for your mate. That because I have a PhD, now I must be paired with someone who has a PhD.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have this professional success, I can only have somebody who is just as successful as me or more successful. Otherwise, I'm settling and I can't do it, right? And I think that is where a lot of women in the world, maybe sisters as well, find themselves in that place of just pricing themselves out of the market.
And you know, there's a fine print with that.
What's that?
At a certain age. Yeah. At a certain age, that goes out the window. Right? You'll take somebody with a bachelor's and or, you know, a trade, and nothing wrong with a person with a trade, but you'll accept someone with a trade once you get past a certain age. And that's the other difficult conversation that needs to be had, because at what point do you start considering yourself being at that certain age?
True, when you have to start being realistic about your options.
I've had clients that I've worked with, and I've tried to, you know, suggest to them that, look, don't wait until you're 38, 39 to start accepting the things that you thought you would never accept. Start entertaining that a little bit earlier. Because 38, 39, and you want children. Like, if you don't want children, we're having a different conversation. But you want children, and you do not want children when you're 40. That's not me saying it. That's what you want. That's your goal. If you want to get married before 40 and have children, then you need to stop with this by 38, 39. Then you'll start considering certain things, a certain pool of men.
Like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you don't want to miss a single episode of the marriage conversation with Naima B. Robert, because we are going deep on that nobody's talking about, that we need to be talking about. So I want to just thank you, Brother Nasir, for being such a guest, and for just being so open and honest with us. Inshallah, we'll have you back maybe on a Saturday night live stream and have, you know, our audience kind of come in and bring their questions and some fun there, inshallah. But in the meantime, may Allah bless you and your family and your work and guide us all. Ameen. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.